Hello, everyone, and welcome to our info session on nonprofit and voluntary sector management certificate for the fall 2026 term. My name is Mushur Chaudhry, and I'm the manager of recruitment and sales for the Chang School. Now, before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the land on which Toronto Metropolitan University is built upon. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. I thank the Indigenous people of Turtle Island for their efforts to protect the land, and I deeply regret the past injustices they have endured. As Toronto Metropolitan University seeks to move forward in partnership with Indigenous people, I pledge to foster an environment that is more inclusive and welcoming of Indigenous people from all communities. Now, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's session. Your microphone is muted throughout the event so as not to disturb other attendees or our presenters. For the hearing impaired, we have automated captioning available, which you can access by activating it in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. You can submit questions for our speakers at any time by typing them into the question box in your control panel, and we'll collect them throughout the session and address them at the end of the presentation. Now, I'd like to introduce our guest speakers for today. First, we have Dr. Junie B. Facey, academic coordinator for the certificate, and we also have Ben Liadsky, who's a course instructor at the Chang School for the certificate. Now, before we dive into our presentation, I want to do a quick temperature check of the room and run a poll. So here's a quick poll for everyone. Please take a few seconds to answer it. We have two questions. One is, what motivated you most to consider this certificate? The options are career advancement, career change, skill building for current role, personal interest, and other. And then the second question is, what is your current level of familiarity with the field? And we have high, moderate, and low. High being you're well informed about the program, moderate being you have basic awareness, and low being you have minimal or no prior knowledge, which is completely fine because that's what we're here for. We'll leave this on for just a few more seconds and then we'll share the results. But I want to say thank you again for taking part in our poll because it provides us really valuable feedback for our team. All right, so career advancement is leading, and right behind that, we have skill building for a current role and career change. And we have most of our people attending with basic awareness of the field, and then some with low and high. So thank you again for taking part in this poll. Now I will invite Dr. Junie B. Facey to provide a brief overview of the certificate. She has been the academic coordinator for the nonprofit certificate program for the last 2 years and an instructor in the program for the past 15 years. And she's also an executive leader in a nonprofit organization with over 25 years of experience in the nonprofit sector. Welcome, Junie.
Thank you, Mashura. Maybe we can go to the next slide. Please, Luke. What are we going to cover today? We're going to be looking at the program at a glance, industry trends, the course delivery and topics, outcomes for careers, the benefits as learners, and how to enroll. Next slide. Canada's nonprofit sector is a significant part of the economy and our communities, with roughly 170,000 organizations, 2.5 million employees, and 13 million volunteers. Its reach is enormous. And when we talk about nonprofits, we're talking about much more than charities. The sector spans government-related organizations, businesses with social purpose, and community-based organizations, serving people across virtually every area of Canadian life. At the heart of the sector is service, delivering programs, supporting members and communities, advocating for change, conducting research, and bringing people together around shared priorities. One of the sector's strengths is its ability to respond to changing circumstances. Social innovation, evidence based practice, partnerships, and strong leadership are increasingly important as organizations navigate new challenges and continue the work post COVID recovery. And while many nonprofits are deeply rooted in local communities, Canadian organizations also contribute nationally and globally. So, this is a sector with both a local presence and a significant broader impact. Next slide, please. We are really excited about the updates to the curriculum. These changes are designed to make the program even more relevant, practical, and responsive to what's happening in the sector today. We've worked with industry experts to make sure the curriculum reflects the skills and the challenges that nonprofit professionals are encountering in their day-to-day work. We're also putting a stronger emphasis on applying knowledge. Rather than just learning concepts, students will have opportunities to think critically, work through real-world cases, complete projects, and learn from one another through peer discussion. And finally, we've looked at the overall student experience and we've streamlined the pathway to completion. The goal is to make the program more focused and accessible while maintaining the depth and the quality of the learning. So, overall, these updates are about connecting the curriculum more directly to the realities of the nonprofit leadership and giving students tools that they can take from the classroom and apply immediately to their organizations. Next slide, please. The program is fully online, which gives students the flexibility to fit their learning around their professional and personal commitments, and it's designed with working nonprofit professionals in mind. One of the biggest changes is that we've streamlined the program from 8 courses down to 6, with 4 required courses and 2 electives. This creates a more focused learning experience while still giving students flexibility to explore areas that are more relevant to their goals. Students have a minimum of 1.5 years and a maximum of 5 years to complete the program, and this provides a balance between having a clear pathway through the program and allowing flexibility for different work and life circumstances. The total program cost is roughly $3,500 to $3,600, making it a relatively accessible option for professionals looking to build or strengthen their skills in the nonprofit sector. So overall, the updated program is shorter, more focused, it's flexible, and it's designed to be practical for people who are balancing professional responsibilities while continuing their education. Next slide, please. The program is divided into 2 parts. 4 required courses, as I've mentioned before, that provide a strong foundation, and 2 electives that allow students to tailor the program to their own interests and career goals. The required courses are really about building a broad understanding of the nonprofit sector and developing the core knowledge and skills that are relevant across a wide range of organizations and roles. The first course looks at what makes nonprofits effective and how organizations can strengthen their overall impact and performance. The next one identifies how students can gain a better understanding of the nonprofit sector, its role in Canadian society, how it operates, and the environments in which organizations work. Financial management provides the practical skills needed to understand and manage the financial side of a nonprofit, which is essential for sustainability and good governance. And program evaluation focuses on understanding whether programs are achieving their intended outcomes and how organizations can use evidence to improve their work and demonstrate impact. The 2 electives are where students can really personalize their learning and choose courses that align with their different or current role, an area they want to develop, or where they see their career going. And the list is there. Strategic planning, marketing and fundraising, leadership and diversity, or broader critical issues affecting the sector. Next slide, please. Who should take this program? This program is designed first and foremost for people who are already working in or closely connected to the nonprofit sector, whether you're a director, manager, supervisor, or someone working directly in service delivery. But it's also for people who are motivated by impact and want to understand how to create meaningful social value, what we might think of as a social return on investment. It's about combining purpose with the practical skills needed to create sustainable impact. For prospective nonprofit leaders, the program provides an opportunity to build the broader knowledge and leadership skills needed to take on greater responsibility. It can also be valuable for someone who's thinking about starting a nonprofit, charity, or foundation and wants to understand the sector before taking that step. For people considering a career transition, the program can provide both sector knowledge and practical skills that can help them move into nonprofit roles. And finally, the nonprofit work doesn't happen in isolation. Professionals in government and the private sector increasingly work with nonprofits through partnerships, funding relationships, community initiatives, and social impact programs. This program can help them better understand and work effectively with the sector. Next slide. Thank you. By completing the certificate, students come away with a much stronger understanding of both how nonprofit organizations operate and the broader environment in which the sector works. The program develops practical skills that students can apply directly to their organizations, and it also goes beyond internal management. Students develop their leadership and advocacy skills and gain a better understanding of how nonprofits engage with government and build effective government relations. Another important component is effective governance, along with equity, diversity, and inclusion, and these are increasingly central to how organizations build trust, make decisions, and serve their communities effectively. Students also have the opportunity to look beyond Canada's domestic nonprofit landscape, and importantly, the program encourages students to critically examine the key issues and opportunities facing the sector. Next slide, please. Career paths. One of the strengths of the program is that it doesn't prepare students for just one type of career. The skills are transferable across a wide range of organizations and sectors. There are opportunities within local, national, and international nonprofits and charities, from frontline program roles to management, leadership, fundraising, communications, and operations. And students can also pursue careers with sector-wide organizations and professional or community associations. For those interested in research and public policy, there are opportunities in think tanks, policy organizations, and advocacy groups. And there are also career paths within government and government-related nonprofit organizations. Understanding the nonprofit sector is increasingly valuable for people working in policy, program delivery, grants, partnerships, and community engagement. And the opportunities extend into the private sector as well. So the certificate can support both people who want to build a long-term career within the nonprofit sector and those who want to work at the intersection of community, government policy, and business. Next slide, please. It's more than a credential. So beyond the curriculum itself, students benefit from a range of supports and resources designed to help them succeed academically and professionally. Students have access to career advising and professional development support, and the program also creates opportunities to connect with others in the sector. Because the program is designed for working professionals and other busy learners, flexibility is an important part of the experience. At the same time, students aren't learning on their own. They have dedicated academic guidance and support along the way. Next slide. So, are you ready to take the next step? Over to you, Mashura.
Thank you so much for such a great overview of the certificate, Junie. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Ben Liadsky, course instructor at the Chang School and Director, Community Investment and Impact at Counseling Foundation of Canada, and also a research consultant at Taylor Newberry Consulting with over 16 years of experience in the nonprofit sector. Welcome, Ben, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Mishra. I've taught the evaluation course for the last 4 years, and as Mishra mentioned, I've been working in this sector for a long time now, and I've been privileged to meet so many really great people that have chosen to make a career in the nonprofit sector from all over the country. And what's always impressed me every time that I talk to someone and ask them, how did you get into this role or where you're at? It's always a fascinating story, and I'm sure Junie could relate to that too. Anyone that's worked in the sector, it's very diverse in terms of how people come here. I've met people who either because they're experienced something themselves in their own life or they saw an unmet need in their community, decided to start a foundation or a charity or a nonprofit. I've met people who are experts in their field and have advanced degrees and are uh, super knowledgeable in areas that blow my mind. I've met people who started as volunteers and transitioned into employment. The other day, I met someone who described herself as a recovering banker, which I thought was quite funny. And she was great and is now pursuing a second career in the nonprofit sector. So all that is to say, all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life have chosen to make a career in the nonprofit sector, and it's one of the things that I love about it. At the same time, working in the nonprofit sector, regardless of if you focus on the arts or the environment or social services or healthcare, it requires expertise in different areas. And one of those is evaluation. It's really a critical component for how nonprofits stay relevant and responsive to the communities that they serve, how they remain accountable to donors and to other stakeholders that rely on them for providing services. Um, and increasingly, Junie had that slide that showed how many nonprofits and charities there are across the country. Um, Literally in every community in this country, there's a nonprofit and charity. And the truth is there isn't unlimited funding out there. So nonprofits have to be able to show that what they do matters, and evaluation is critical to helping to do that. And rest assured, the evaluation course is not a statistics course. It's not a data methods course. We use case studies, we use real world scenarios, we use articles and activities to explore different ways in which evaluation can and does connect to the work in nonprofits. We will cover topics like when is the right time to do an evaluation? How do you ensure an evaluation is done ethically and responsibly? What kind of evaluation is appropriate and in what circumstances? How to share back what's been learned from evaluation with diverse audiences, and so many other topics. It's really designed as an accessible course. You don't have to have any prior evaluation knowledge. I will say over the years, I've had a mixture of students. Some have been real experts, and some have been newcomers and it's the first time that they're really being exposed to it. And it's great. They learn from each other. And the nice part about evaluation is anyone can do it. It's not something that you need to walk into with a whole bunch of prior experience. And there's also an online discussion forum where we encourage that dialogue and sharing of experience and peer learning, which I find really helpful for students. So I'll just close by saying that I really do believe the nonprofit sector can be a great career path. It's a diverse sector. There's multiple different roles that you can find yourself in depending on your interest. And I think of this certificate program and my evaluation course as tools you can put in your toolbox, things that you can help to advance your career and to help you navigate where you end up in the nonprofit sector. So thank you for listening to me, and I'll turn it back to Mashur.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your insights, Ben. We're really lucky to have you not just on the panel, but as part of this course. So that ends our presentation portion of the session, and we'll now open it up to everyone for a Q&A. Please use the question box to enter your questions. And it looks like we have a bunch of questions in here already. The first one is, how competitive is the nonprofit job market for someone entering the field without previous nonprofit experience? Yeah, so maybe Ben, you can get started, and then Junie can chime in as well.
Yeah, I would say it depends. People in the nonprofit sector have different specializations. There's accountants, there's communications professionals, there's finance people, there's people who are more on the activist side, people who are program managers. So there's a variety of skills that you can bring that you might have developed in other places or from your education that can still be valuable. So having nonprofit experience definitely helps, but it's not necessarily the only thing that matters. I will also say that another way to gain that experience is to volunteer. That's a great first entry point for a lot of people to get that experience and to learn a little bit more about nonprofits. I'm not going to lie and say, it's not a question that you won't get asked is if you have experience in the nonprofit sector. But like any employer, they're hired for a variety of skills, and depending on what their need is, if you got that right match, then that could be a way into.
Thanks, Ben, and you said what I was thinking as well. And I'll just add a little bit more, and that is two things actually. The three sectors, the public, the nonprofits, and the for-profit sector, I think they're all learning from each other and skills are transferable. So it really depends, exactly like Ben said, you know, what area that you are focusing on. But I think the thing that is the distinguishing characteristic of the nonprofit is the mission and passion, the why. And that you can't train that. You can't, you know, develop that. That's about, what's core to who you are and what you value and how that aligns with the goals of the organization. And, any organization in a nonprofit will want to know that there's alignment with your values and the values of the organization.
I love that. Thank you both for sharing that insight. Okay, next topic is can you talk about the involvement of artificial intelligence in the field? What's it looking like right now? What do you anticipate it to be in the near future?
I don't know if there's anything that you are seeing in the evaluation sector, Ben, but I think as a nonprofit sector, we're a little behind um, in that technology. And part of it is because the nonprofit sector is about people, and we're a little bit hesitant to rely on technology. However, I think we need to start seeing how we can use technology to not replace people and the work that is people essential, but how do we use it to enhance the work that people are doing? And so I think there's an opportunity for us to learn a little bit more and understand what the capabilities are of AI and how that can complement the nonprofit work.
Yeah, and I would add, I think Junie's right. Like evaluation too, it's a people-centered activity and role and function. There are now some tools that are developed to help nonprofits develop an evaluation plan and tools that can help, uh, using AI to more easily analyze some of the data and findings. Um, but you're still going to need to be able to, talk with us, figure out who needs to be part of the conversation, be sensitive to the type of questions that you ask. And so AI, I think, in the evaluation field is often used as sort of like a friend that you can help surface some ideas, some questions to test out, some plans and frameworks to put in place. But then when it comes to the actual, final product and final process of beginning to collect the data and thinking about how you're going to actually approach someone to ask them for their feedback and their opinion and how you're going to value their voice in a respectful way, that's still something that you really need to have the human touch for. So yes, AI is coming into the field, and there's certainly some tools out there that are helping to make some aspects easier. But it's still very much, dependent on the people behind the AI that's going to be the key to determining whether an evaluation is really going to be useful and helpful.
Amazing. Yeah, it is. It is just an evolving topic that's having major updates every day. But yeah, like you said, it is going to be coming, but uh, we'll see it as it comes. And okay, next question is about class sizes. How large generally are the class sizes? I think we've got that question a couple of times. There is a question. There is also if everything is asynchronous or are there synchronous components? And I can answer about how many hours per week would be invested. We shared that in the presentation. It's about 5 to 8 hours per week. But if you could talk a little bit about maybe class sizes or and if there are any synchronous components at all.
Hmm. So generally, we won't run a course if we don't have at least 15 students. So the minimum class size is at least 15, and I I believe it can go up to 40, but we tend to see maybe a little under 40. There was another question, Michelle. What was that one?
If it's all asynchronous or if there are any synchronous components.
Uh, Financial management, we offer two ways. So the asynchronous, and then we also offer it in what we call a hybrid format, which means there's a component that is online and a component that is in person. The in person component normally takes place on a Saturday, so one Saturday a month, so 3 Saturdays for the term, and it's a full day, so about 7 hours. But normally that is scheduled, so people can choose whether they want to select that course option because the days would be identified in the posting of the course.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, next question is what type of networking opportunities are available, especially as someone currently working in the field? So I can share a little bit about that. We do host networking events. We hosted one earlier as well, and sometimes they're in person, sometimes they're virtual. So I'd recommend everybody to keep a lookout on our events page on the website and you'll be able to see information on any upcoming networking events. And in these events, very similar to these info sessions, we have experts from the industry that are joining as well, and you have a chance to speak with current students, prospective students, and people who are just looking to increase their network. Anything else to add to that, Junie and Ben? Please go ahead.
Just that, oh, go ahead.
I was actually going to say, Ben, anything?
Just that within the evaluation field specifically, there is a sort of professional association, I guess you would call it, for evaluators, and they do host free networking events. So, for example, in Toronto, there's something called the Evaluation Cafe, and it's a mixture of online sometimes and sometimes in-person events. And the subject changes, and it's sort of peer-led, so people can volunteer to share something that they're working on. But it's a great way to meet others, and often it's folks that are connected to the nonprofit sector.
And then I'll just squeeze in that in every course, there's a very vibrant discussion forum component to the learning, and that is an opportunity for not only the sharing of the learning, but also for individuals to talk about how the learning is applicable in their respective work environments and communities, and that has also enabled a networking among peers.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question is from Ikram Qureshi. Thank you for your question. And the question is, I'm a teacher with little exposure of the field. And what are the chances to grow for someone who has little exposure in the field?
I think, Ben, you had shared something a little similar in a response today around being exposed to the sector through volunteering opportunities. As well, The course, I want to say we tried to really touch on so many aspects of the nonprofit sector that, I might be biased, but I feel that we've covered a broad range of issues and areas and topics. So the learning is really rich, and the course has existed, is it 1998? So we've been around a really long time. We were the first of the kind, and we continue to develop the program. So I see the the learning being broad and the exposure being broad and the opportunities for networking, like I shared with the courses in the discussion forum. I don't know if there's anything else to add.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for that answer. Next question is how much data analysis and impact measurement is covered?
Yeah, I can touch on that. So it's definitely part of the evaluation course. The nature of the course is really about imagining yourself managing or participating in an evaluation process. So there's a variety of different topics that we're going to cover, and that would be part of it. But we're not asking students to, or I'm not asking students to get into the nitty-gritty of, analyzing data from a specific nonprofit in depth. As I mentioned, it's not a stats or data methods class. There are lots of different ways to do evaluation, and impact evaluation is sort of one approach that's out there. So we will talk about that for sure.
Okay, so I know you just touched on impact evaluation, but we do have a question on if students learn to create impact reports.
Yeah, so one of the activities that is in the evaluation class is to develop an evaluation plan. And so part of that is thinking through, in a similar vein that I mentioned how we don't ask you to get into the nitty-gritty of doing the data analysis. We're not asking you to prepare a final evaluation report, but what we will ask is to plan what should go into an evaluation report, what kinds of content would be helpful for different audiences to imagine. So we walk through some steps to think about what type of evaluation report would be helpful in a particular context. Should it look like a written report? Should it look like an online website? Should it include a lot of qualitative data or quantitative data or both? Should it be designed in a way that's highly visual and engaging for one particular audience or not? So these are types of questions that um, need to be thought about at an early stage of an evaluation process, and not just the end. So it's about thinking through the whole journey of an evaluation process. And that's part of what the course sort of follows you from that early stage. Okay, it's time, we need an evaluation, all the way to the end. We've got the data, now how do we share it back?
Great. Awesome. Okay, so we've got just one more question that's open right now, and that is the program suitable for a donor to take in order to learn about the nonprofit sector and to evaluate charities? So yeah, maybe Junie, you can start, and then Ben, you can
Mhm.
chime in as well.
Without lots of detail to add, I would say sure. It's an opportunity to learn about the sector, and learning about charities is learning about nonprofits in the sector. Uh, I think the other part of the question was evaluating. Was it that?
Evaluating charities. Yeah.
Evaluating charities? I think I might not go with evaluating, but better understanding charities, and I guess to make informed decisions about uh, what charities you want to be connected with might be something that you could gain from the program.
Yeah, I just echo that. I think it's true of the evaluation course, but I think over the other courses as well, it really, I think, exposes you to, regardless of how you're coming into this program, uh, the broadness and diversity of the sector. And I think through that, you would develop an understanding, as Junie said, of some of the different challenges that nonprofits are facing that you might not otherwise know about um, from taking this course. So I think it's a great opportunity to get a lay of the land, to hear about some of the different ways in which nonprofits are working and thinking about issues in their community, and that might help you in turn, figure out where you want to be a donor in the future.
I love that. Thank you both for sharing that. Okay, next question is, does the program cover finance management or budget oversight?
Yes, so there is the course, the financial management course, and that's the course that we offer both asynchronous as well as with the synchronous component. So you can choose either option of the course. We normally offer the the synchronous uh, hybrid course once a year or every other year. So it's not as often as the online.
Okay, awesome. Um, Yeah, well, someone's talking about job opportunities after completing the course because the sector is very volunteer heavy. 13 million volunteers to 2.5 million paid positions. Um, so what can we, if there's anything that you can share on that?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. The sector is very volunteer driven, and many organizations have started because of the passion of one or a few volunteers. But the nonprofit sector is actually experiencing, uh, what would you call it, staffing challenges. So we don't have enough people available to fill roles, and often roles are vacant for longer than we would like to see. So, yes, there's a lot of volunteer opportunity, but there's a lot of um, vacant opportunities in the employment aspect as well.
Yeah, and there's even more demand, I think, for staff and employees that have, a sophisticated skill set. And I think that's part of one of the reasons why this program exists is there's a recognition that, there are a lot of different entry points into the sector for sure, and that's valuable. Gives lots of opportunity for people from diverse backgrounds to enter into the sector. But it's also true that, like other types of employers, nonprofits need, good accountants. They need uh, people who are really strong communicators and marketers, and people that can do budgets, and people who are, really good in HR. All of those functions exist in the nonprofit sector as well.
That's a great way of looking at it. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. All right. So at this point, we don't have any more open questions. What I'll do is do one last quick poll before we do our closing remarks. And it's just to get an idea of how we did and how likely are you to take a course from the certificate. So please take a moment to answer that. And I just wanted to say thank you so much to Junie and Ben for taking part in our online session today. Your insights and perspectives were very valuable. And thanks to all of you who are attending as attendees. You've taken that first step towards knowing a little bit more about the certificate. And if you're interested in learning more, please visit our website at continuing.torontomu.ca. And if you have any other questions, please contact me via email at mash.chaudhry@torontomu.ca. All of the information that we've shared and a recording of this session will be sent to you with a survey within the next 24 to 48 hours. And on behalf of the Cheng School and all of our speakers and presenters, thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of the day. Bye, everyone.